Hi, and welcome to this video tutorial on the Drupal 7 content management system. This is the second video in the tutorial series, the Ascend project. And the Ascend project basically takes a Drupal install, base install, and we build it out until we have a full-blown community website. And what we're going to be doing today is looking at the WYSIWYG, IMCE, and IMC Bridge modules. Now, last time we installed the Devel module and we used it to generate the content that you see there, and we also installed the module filter module so that we could manage our modules pages a little bit more easily. So at the very end of the last video we were looking at a content edit screen. So let's go back there so we can review the problem that we're trying to solve. Click Find Content, and you can select any one of these pieces of content, a page or an article, and click Edit. And if you take a look at the body field here, it probably doesn't look like the editor that you're used to if you're coming from WordPress or another content management system. There's no rich text editor here. So if you wanted to do a bulleted list, you want to do a hyperlink, you want to embed a photo, you have to type it all by hand. So if you're a designer or developer, maybe you don't mind, but if you're trying to write an article or even a comment and you want to create a link, isn't it much easier to have a rich text editor to do that for you? I think so, and I think this is a serious usability issue for Drupal, but we're going to take care of that today. So why don't we get started by clicking on the Modules tab. Alright, so there's 3 modules that we're going to want to enable here. Let's put our cursor in the filter list and type in WY. Yes, alright, so we want to enable the WYSIWYG module, and you see the IMCE WYSIWYG API bridge. We're going to want to enable that as well. Now I've got the WYSIWYG spell check module. I would leave that off because it's specific to TinyMCE. If you want to be ambitious and include that, it's outside the scope of this tutorial. I just happen to drop the module in there, and you can do that as well if you're interested. But the other module that we're going to need for the tutorial and get our basic site together is IMCE. And I'm going to include the IMC make directory module as well. It allows users to manage directories in IMCE. And let's save the configuration. We're not quite done yet, so let's go up to the filter list, type in WY to get to the WYSIWYG modules, and let's click on the configure link here. And you'll see that there's a list of rich text editors, and they all say not installed. Now you might think, well, I thought that's what we were doing when we enabled WYSIWYG and the other modules. No, we enabled modules that allow you to install a rich text editor. What we need to do is download the rich text editor of our choice. CK Editor, it's a really popular option. I prefer TinyMCE. Those are the 2 links that I provided on Friendly Machine. YUI Editor, that's by Yahoo, that's also popular. And for our purposes, it doesn't really matter, but I'm going to go ahead and install TinyMCE. So I've downloaded the TinyMCE library. I'm going to copy that, and here I'm in the libraries folder, but let me go up my site structure here a little bit and get into my Drupal root install. And I'm going to show you that you need to go into the sites folder, go into the all folder, and if you don't have a libraries folder, then you can go ahead and create one. Then you just drop that TinyMCE folder in there, okay? And then we'll close these down, and let's refresh the page and see what happens. Okay, so it looks a little bit better. We have some options that can populate these drop downs. So for filtered HTML, let's do the TinyMCE. And for the full HTML, TinyMCE, it's the only one we have available, but you can see that if you wanted to have a different editor, you thought that was a little bit more appropriate for your users, that had a different tool set or just had a different look to it, you could select that. You don't necessarily have to have both for filtered and full HTML. Let's go ahead and save these settings. So we have one final configuration step, and what we're going to do is we're going to go into the edit screen for the full HTML input format. So we're going to be configuring the TinyMCE editor. All right, so this first tab, I'm just going to show you what it looks like. You can enable the editor by default. Some other selections here. I just wanted you to have a peek at all of these. This one is going to be a little overwhelming, perhaps. There's lots of buttons. These are all the buttons that we're going to place on our rich text editor. I'm going to put in bold, italic, underline. I'm not going to select very many of these because I just want to demonstrate what's going on. I'm going to do link and image. I'm going to do advanced image and advanced link, and it's very important that if you're following along to click the IMCE button down there. It's I'll show you what happens with that once we get into the editor on an article or a page edit screen. Let's just look at these others really quickly. This controls the editor appearance, where the toolbars are and things like that, button alignment, and cleanup and output. I like to have the force cleanup on standard paste selected. That's if somebody pastes from Word, which is something that users do frequently, and the markup that is placed into the page is just a mess. So having that on there is a good choice. Remove line breaks. I like to have this not selected. If yours is selected, I mean, it's your choice. You have to go through and read these options. How you configure this editor isn't going to be that important for the rest of this tutorial series. What is important is that you do have a rich text editor and that it's configured the way that you want it to be configured, something that you're comfortable with. So let's close that tab. You can also change the styles for the rich text editor. Here you can set block formats and you can, as I said, change the editor's style sheet. You can use the theme CSS, which is what I always do, so that I have a good idea of what I'm writing or what I'm working on is going to look like on the published page. You can define your own CSS or use TinyMC's default. Let's just close that up and let's go ahead and click Save. Yeah, so the profile for the full HTML has been saved, and you can see how you could probably expose the filtered HTML for your regular users, for people making site comments and things like that. You have different button sets for the two different kinds of users, and admin users or people that are going to be doing any serious content work, you probably want the full HTML, or you could create another profile altogether. So that's another option. But let's see what it is that we've done. Let's click Find Content, and just pick any one of these pieces of content and click the edit. Now you see we have something that looks a little bit more familiar, right? We don't have very many buttons because we just selected a few. If you're following along with this tutorial series, go back after you watch this and select the button set that you want. But what I want to demonstrate right now is how IMCE actually works with the WYSIWYG module. So as we mentioned before, you probably thought when you're installing the WYSIWYG that you were installing a rich text editor. WYSIWYG and IMCE are two modules that work together to allow you to place a rich text editor in your site, and we place it in the libraries, and you could have multiple text editors, as we saw. One of the things that IMCE does for us is if we wanted to place an image right there, it allows us to do this. And you know, from the beginning of this video, I said if you don't have a rich text editor and you don't have this functionality that IMCE provides, you'd have to know the paths to all of your images or PDFs or whatever you wanted to link to. With this, we can just click this little button, and if you don't see this button, that means that IMCE is not installed properly. That's the dead giveaway. And so we could go in. All this stuff is in here by default. I didn't place it here, but I'm going to insert this file and just put something there for an image description so we don't get the error. And I'm going to insert. Now, this is just to demonstrate the functionality that we've enabled, and that's pretty much it for this video. Next time around, we're going to get into themes. We're going to try and select a nice theme for our community site and install it and start customizing it a little bit. Next time, before you start up this next tutorial video, select a nice button set for your rich text editor, and I'll see you then.